it's it's super interesting to have someone who worked for a defense contractor running for office on a progressive platform. Do you find that people are surprised to hear that?
Well, they might be surprised, but I believe progressives should have an active foreign policy and defense policy. I've noticed that there's a lot of missing parts in my, educating myself in university and also experience-wise was always to form some form of policy that would fit with the progressive agenda. Obviously, defense policy today, we have to look at it. I believe in the Powell Doctrine, which believes that we should have a viable defense, but reserved and not in consistent use. The world situation is very dicey now because we're in a situation where we have conflicts all around the world, separate conflicts that we have to solve. And I believe progressives are in a good position to come up with a new way of looking over our defense policies and negotiating and cooperating with the brass to figure out a new way for America to turn the page where we're not, everywhere, and we're not causing issues that we don't want to solve. I mean, we don't want to cause. We want to actually solve issues and not create more problems. And also when it comes to our negotiations and our foreign policy, when it comes to diplomacy, I feel that portion of our government has been underused. And I believe if we are more diplomatic and have a potential military, that we're not really using our brothers and sisters in uniform and sending them into conflicts that, we don't know if we'll be able to get them out of, that progressives are in a position to actually come up with a cogent policy that we could all agree with.
I think that is a really great position to have, and from someone who's sort of seen over both sides of the fence. I think that might really hit home with a lot of people. But switching gears a little bit, so you ran as a Democrat. You said it didn't really work out. You
Almost ran as a Democrat.
Sorry, go on. Oh, almost. Sorry. Can you talk a little bit about the differences that you've noticed running a grassroots campaign, or like some challenges that you faced running grassroots campaign, and how it might be different in the Democratic Party than it is independently?
Perfect. There is a huge difference between running as an independent, a grassroots style, and with a party, let's say the Democratic Party. Democratic Party is a very old party and is set in its old ways. Bernie did a great job of showing the public how it operates and how far he got in it. But we still have to realize that the independent campaigns are a very important part of our electoral process. We cannot afford to say, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, independent campaigns don't work. You're not going to get, you're only going to get 6%. And I don't think that's the point. The point is that, running as an independent with a shoestring budget, which I am, takes a lot of skill. And I believe that I've gotten very far, because I just want to reach out to people. I'm not really looking for money. I don't think that that would be the right thing to do. I want to see if, my presence in politics makes a difference in perception of people in the whole political process. I believe I bring a lot of positivity because I'm not really looking for money. Yes, I have a donate button for my campaign, but I'm not emphasizing that because really I want to get the money out of politics. We've been talking about getting the money out of politics, and then we go back to this conversation about money. I believe that if you build it, people will send money, they will come basically. I believe that money, especially having loads of it, covers up the weakness of a candidate strategically. Money covers up the weakness of a philosophy, and you're just inundating people with information they don't need. And I've been wanting to grow this campaign organically and the right way. And I started it out, and I'm still on a shoestring budget until I feel like, okay, maybe I do need some money for A, B, and C. But in reality, I'm not in it for money. I want to reach people. I want to change minds. And money doesn't necessarily do that. It just perpetuates a system of corruption, a system of graft, a system where, you elect somebody, they'll shake your hand, they'll get your vote, you'll never see them again. because they have all this money backing them up, and people are telling, yeah, well, I'm going to give you a certain amount of money. You're going to say this. And candidates don't have control. And so the reason why I'm running as an independent, because I want some sort of control over what comes out of the campaign. But I also want to give whoever's in the campaign a voice too, because I want, a volunteer to come in and say, what, I'm very passionate about, the health of my community. And may I come in your campaign and actually have a voice? And of course, a campaign would support that, because this is a people's campaign. Of course, it's an experiment. But I believe that the Run an Independent campaign, it's not easy, but it makes you feel better when you've actually reached out to people and they have a perspective, a newer perspective, and they could move on and make changes in their community. So there's a lot of different things going on. The difference running in a party is that you're within a box. You run with a party, you're in a box, and you're getting into a situation where strategically you might not be able to reach everyone because your party believes in a certain thing, and not everybody is with that. And it is independent. I feel like I could reach out to as many people as I can and let them know, look, I'm a hardcore progressive. I have progressive policies. Well, this is the reason why it would work for you being a conservative, or you being a libertarian, or we could come together as, from different political philosophies and come up something great for America. I really believe in that. And so running inside of a party will put you in a box. It will, constrain what you really believe. And this is not worth being in politics if you're not in it for, for being, for the people and in it for yourself.
That's amazing. It's really like just A+ across the board so far, I think, for me, for all of your responses are really hitting home. So what advice can you give to other people who are considering running independent, like challenges that they might face and how they can navigate in that?
Well, this is what I've learned so far. Do not look to what other independent candidates have done. Do look to what Bernie has done in Vermont, and every state is different. You realize that every state have different laws, have different ways of dealing with independent candidates. Sometimes you might have to join the Democrats because you're forced to, like in Ohio, where independent candidates really don't have a chance. From what I was told, you have to get a ginormous amount of signatures, which if you're a working person like I am, you might not be able to organize quickly enough to get that sort of backing. You might have to start really early, depending on what your strategy is. But I would say to people who are running as independents, and I also respect people who run for the Green Party, but specifically, and the Libertarian Party, but specifically as independents, that get ready to, deal with herding cats, basically. Everyone has an idea. Everyone that you're going to meet are going to be for your campaign because you're going to come from an honest position. I'm an independent. I'm not really with either the parties. I want to do something for our society. And, it's just convincing and persuading people that this is the right way to go. And I found that a lot of people that I talk to about it are very excited about having a gubernatorial candidate that's independent and free from any sort of the corruption that we see on an everyday basis. But yeah, any advice is that keep on going. It's not easy. I mean, I find myself that I'm fatigued because, I have a full-time job, but also politics is also a full-time job. But it's rewarding, and just keep going and grab your voice and go with it. And people will follow you. I'm doing it because I actually do care about my country and the people of my country. And it's our country. And it is our home. We have no other choice but to get involved. Also, another piece of advice, and not just for candidates, but the people who might not want to get involved as a candidate, that it is our responsibility as American citizens to make sure our political process is fair for everyone. Because if we stay blind and just go with Democrats or Republicans or whoever, just because they've been there and we know who they are, who we think we know who they are, and we vote for them, and then when they go to office, they just do what they want, and then normal everyday people don't get anything from that. Our society, our roads are falling apart. We have lead in our water. Our infrastructure is not, being upgraded. We're spending and making authorization bills to go to Mars for NASA, which, my parents were used to work for NASA. They helped with the space shuttle project, and they were there in the 70s. And I grew up around that. And I know how important it is for science to move forward and go to new places like the moon and the Mars, which the moon we've been to before. Now we're trying to expand out there. But we're not going to get too far if on Earth we don't have the policies to make sure that the human race is protected and not getting poisoned, or not dealing with neoliberal policies abroad where they're not in control of their resources, and you have famine and all sorts of bad things that happen across the world, and we have conflicts. We have to solve these things on planet Earth before we can even think of being successful in landing on Mars and forming a colony or whatever the ideas are for space. So we have to be pragmatic. I think a lot of politicians want to copy JFK. They want to say, well, I want to send someone to Mars and have the first person on Mars, which is great on paper, but we have to be practical and rebuild our infrastructure. Now we're going into a world where we have electric cars, you have automated cars. We need to build an infrastructure that complements that. And I believe the Congress is just not doing what it's supposed to do. It's not, making authorization bills that are for rebuilding our infrastructure so we could accommodate new technologies. The Congress is afraid to appropriate money, even though we're sending our money abroad with all the exports. We have no exports, and all the imports we're buying and sending our dollars abroad, and our domestic market is constrained. So we have to really rethink the way that we do things. So if you're a regular person and you want to just get involved in your local government, run for your local government. Tell your neighbors what you're concerned with, and just move forward with it, because we have to do this together. We're not going to do this as individuals. I know I'm not going to be able to do this alone, without the help of the people. But I believe that if we have the right conversation and we sort of include everyone, and not just progressives and not just conservatives, and bring independents together, that we will come up with a new way of governing ourselves.
That's awesome.